to a resolution, or they had questions that they maybe forwarded to district that they didn't receive a response?
I think there's been a number of people that have not gotten satisfactory responses over the years. But the general consensus was, if the information's there, we have it, we can look at it, and we can answer many of the questions for ourselves. I don't want to perpetuate a situation where everyone, members of the community, have to always call district. If we have information that is available and under FOIL would be permissible to distribute, if we could take the step in transparency and put that information out there, I think a lot of folks would appreciate that, and I think it would go a long way of us, putting, again, a good faith effort forward to, increase our outreach and our communication with the neighbors and residents that we live with.
I do think that whole process is going to be a very time-consuming process for the district clerk. So I don't think it's something that you just snap your finger and
No,
it's
certainly.
done,
It's,
so,
I agree.
Do we get, Janice, do we get a lot of questions or communications from residents when they, in review of the agenda?
I can't think of one offhand.
Okay.
I think that part of the issue is we're using, in my opinion at least, kind of an outdated or an outdated source of communicating our documents just amongst ourselves. So a lot of this I know is scanned in, and there's certain megabytes that the files need to meet, and then if they're not, we scan them at a lower resolution. So a lot of the efforts to make this work would be minimized if we updated the mechanisms for which we share documents. We don't put native documents on. These are scanned, so they're not searchable. So if we're reading a resolution and I want to search for a file, I can't do that with this software for many of the documents because they're scanned. So if we were to, explore, and I know Mr. Poole, I've reached out to you about this, newer softwares that could allow for sharing files and then determine which files could be automatically shared public and which files could be shared only with the board. I know districts do this. Neighboring districts have the same system that we have or similar with the scanned PDFs, and there's a public file out every board meeting. So again, this is just an effort to increase that transparency and really put everything out there. I don't think there's anything here to hide, and I'm not looking to see if this can be done tomorrow.
I don't think anyone's.
No.
I wasn't.
I don't think you are, but I
Just
think that
curious,
we could definitely put this information out there and not necessarily have it done for tomorrow. I'm not looking for that, but explore a process. I think part of the problem might be we get our agendas Friday, I think Friday afternoon sometime for the following Tuesday's meeting. Perhaps we need a little bit more time between when we get the information from Janice and the board meeting, so that would then leave her some time to put together this information for public consumption. We're getting this information Friday afternoon. I don't expect Janice to go home Saturday and Sunday and resort this for public consumption. So if we looked at our efforts in terms of setting the agenda, and that would be part of the role that you and Mr. Rose would have, when can we get those agendas out to us as board members with the backup, so then some time could be dedicated to resorting this information and putting it out there to the public. If there's a
I would be
will,
interested in some of the neighboring districts that do this, so I can.
Sure.
I mean, if you want to share it to the.
sure,
board.
I'll send. I'll put together a list. I'd be happy to. put it out there.
I'd just like to say to that, I think it's important, especially when you're rolling something out and you're doing comparisons to other school districts or even whatever it may be, do they have the personnel that we have to do this? So I think that's important to consider. They may be capable of doing more than what we can because of the quantity or the roles that the personnel have. So one thing that I would like to know is, are we comparing apples to apples when we do that? Otherwise, I think it's a good idea to try and get, more information out, but I don't want to tie our hands in some way where we may restrict the ability for the administration to do their work. So that's the only thing I'll say.
And also, this program that we were using was the most economical way to get the board to be 21st century without costing any money to the district. This is free, so that was the initial reason for it. And some of the programs that you're talking about, especially with searchable engines, cost the money to the district. So that was why this particular program was we've been using it and working through the idiosyncrasies of it, but it was zero cost. And I think if we're going to implement some of the other things, you know, in conjunction with what Henry said, you need to also know personnel, you need to also know the cost to the district. We're trying to, you know, keep a streamlined budget, and to frivolously spend some money on
Well, let's not
something.
talk about frivolously spending. I think that's an
Okay,
unfair
relax.
statement. I think that
I'm
trying to
just
put
talking
information
about
out there
free
is...
information. This was a free service, and that's why we were utilizing it. So with all the, you know, problems that it makes, it also saved the district much money in years.
I
I
think
just want
this
to
is
let you
great.
guys
I
know that
think
you
it's-
can search. You can.
Yes,
you can
I
search
know
the
you can
But not
documents.
every file on here actually pops up in this document, because they're scanned.
Right, but it's
Yeah,
close
you
enough.
can-
So it's
I mean,
it's getting us there, and I think
It's not, it's like
there's been some...
renaming the file is not that difficult. It
There's-
takes 20,
Well,
15 seconds.
That's another issue, that when we receive those files, we shouldn't be renaming them. They should be named the way
It
they
takes-
are.
It takes 10 seconds, though. It's
Mr.
not-
Rose, I hear what you're saying, but, you know, it's 2017, and we want to put information out, and I think this system was great for the last number of years that it's been used. I think it could be better. I thought we could reach a consensus on trying to improve the programs that we use to increase efficiency and increase transparency. I do recall reading something that documents posted to our sites soon need to be posted in their native software format as per NICEAD's regulations. I don't know when that's coming into play, but that's going to be coming in soon. Certain website compliance issues with ADA, I think something along those lines. So I think taking that into consideration with what the motivation for this request is, which is just simply being transparent, putting information out there.
I'm just curious. I know you're using the word transparency, but if Janice just mentioned that she's received no phone calls or has denied anyone information that they requested, that seems transparent.
Then I think we probably have a
Okay.
different definition of transparency.
I'm willing to
perhaps.
explore other software. I agree with you on some of your points, but I don't think there's any devious contempt to not share information.
I don't think
with
there's
you.
any. I think this is great that we have an electronic system. It does frustrate me when I see the thick binders on that side, but I understand you all are working through these documents in a more of a live moment, so I understand that. And I think we've made some great progress. But, you know, progress is just that, and we shouldn't just say, here's where we're at, and let's just be happy with the status quo. I think if we can look and explore other avenues to put these files out there and have the documents available, again, nothing confidential, nothing personnel related, you know, that's all I'm looking to do. I don't think that it's a very difficult
I
request.
think moving forward, we can look at, you were going to
Yeah.
do some research on your own, so that's
Sure.
great. You can bring it back to the board, and then we'll go from
I
there.
think that there's consensus that everyone wants to be transparent. I think there's just concern about the potential cost associated with that in different technology, the cost associated in overtime for Janice for having to do these things, and also potential liability, making sure that we're not revealing information that is actually supposed to be kept confidential. So I think that what I hear everyone on the board saying is that transparency is important to all of us, however, that we need to be considerate of these other potential liabilities and additional costs, which no one would want to incur.
I think that if we were to act on all of our fears and limit the actions we were to take, we would be doing a lot less. We should be looking at ways to hold ourselves accountable by putting this information out there. It's public information. It's public information. It's not private information. And my concern is that we are having conversations about things that people don't know about. And that's the motivation for this. Look
I'm sorry,
forward.
Mr. Iannucci, but you
Dr.
said-
Iannucci.
Dr. Iannucci. Didn't you say that was rude when
It's
someone said
Michael.
it to you?
Michael's fine.
Thank you. So I just am reiterating that I think we all hear what you're saying, that transparency is important. However, it is necessary to act to ensure we are not giving information that would cause a liability to the district. I think you've seen these, there's a tremendous amount of information, we spoke about that the other day, and so we do need to be careful in moving forward. I'm not saying that we are acting out of fear, but I'm saying that we need to act responsibly.
Sure.
And diplomatically and with tact for the district and the people that live here, and the information that we're entrusted with. So everyone here agrees with transparency. The community members, if they have questions at this time, can ask Janice, to which she's received zero. So it's not like information is being hidden. I think we all agree with what you're saying in terms of transparency, but I think we need to do so in a careful manner.
In a careful manner, it should be done. And I'll reiterate my earlier point, which is that this is not something that should be jumped into tomorrow or the day after. We should be looking at ways to increase the access to this information. And just because Janice hasn't received the phone call doesn't mean it's not public information that should be out there.
All right, so you do your research, you get back to us, and then we'll talk then, okay?
Sure. And I look forward to hearing what other platforms we could look into also.
Sure. Okay, last is public access to executive session agendas.
So this really stems from, why do we go into executive session? And one of the things that often happens is personnel. We make a motion for personnel. We make a motion for contract. What contract? What unit? So I'm just looking to increase, public access to why this corporate body is meeting behind closed doors. And if we can just be a little bit more specific with, why we're meeting in executive session. I understand and read through some of the backup that there might be some concerns with putting out these agendas and, making sure that we're not disclosing anything that's too specific. And I'm happy to, modify my request in terms of when we make our motions, if we could be specific to the reasons we're going into executive session. I'm just looking to up that.
So moving forward, we will attempt to be more specific within the confines of the law.
Sure,
Stated law, in reference to why we're going into exec session. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
great.
you.
Any additional statements from residents? Please state your name.
Elisa
Address.
McMorris, Wading River. Welcome summer, and exciting all the changes going on at the two buildings. And I too trust the process. I unfortunately missed the last space and facility meeting, and I'm already thinking about, moving on to what's going on next. So that's my question here, because I believe that what's going on there is going to be finished, and we're going to go through our punch list and be fine. High school and middle school. So obviously middle school is coming up. One of the things that occurred to me as I sat in on our 5th grade moving up ceremony was the wire that was sticking up my behind. So my question to you is whether or not that particular process can be done at the same time as the middle school. Us look at the auditorium, since it's used so much, like the sound system and the auditorium. Since now I'm in there a lot now, my daughter does theater, does music there, and wondering whether or not that can be done simultaneously as the middle school, and probably not at the same time, because we're going to be behind in the drafting and all that kind of arguing over what kind of seats we're going to have. But I'm just wondering whether we can move that up just a little bit, because it seems like 2 years from now, where that room gets used by everybody in the district. So it would be nice for us to maybe take a look at that. I'm not sure if that was talked about at the Space and Facilities meeting. If it was, I'm sorry, but now it will be.
Well, just not to interrupt you, Elise, but
Go ahead.
how do we have to somehow include these projects with other projects that are aidable, so we receive the entire state aid for that portion of the work, correct?
I will review the process.
Okay.
I mean, this is all educational space,
Okay.
all instructional space, so it isn't an aidability
Okay.
component, but it cannot be linked to the middle school project because it is a separate building. If she's considering to bid them together, I will review the process and see what can or cannot be expedited.
Just wanted to look at it. Obviously, the music and theater kids needed some discussion about that. They haven't been forgotten, and that it's still on the plans, and that gets asked to me a few times when I'm at the meetings. But anyway, so it would be nice to bring that up. So webpage, so we talked about opting our community in on these things. One of the things I think that would help tremendously, and before we spend money on everything else, is to spend some more time on our webpage. I think that we don't need to recreate the wheel. There's plenty of districts on the island. We can just look at how they're running. We can run those, what's the upcoming, so when people want to opt in and find out what's going on in the district, what I did before I had kids in the school was I just went on every Sunday night. I know it sounds like I'm a boring person, but that's what I did to see if there was something going on, see what went on across the ticker. So this, if we spend some time there and making it a little bit more easy to navigate, that could be where initially anybody that wants to opt into what's going on in the district, they can find it pretty quickly. Social media, school social media page, I know that we've talked about that. I don't know what other schools do, but when I was listening to the discussion, that was just something that, because we have them with our PTAs and PTOs, it could be a way as well as for us to move forward with that. One of the things that you mentioned about documents, so I'm a medical professional, and one of the things that we don't do, so now if you notice, we all have My Healthcare, right? You can go into your healthcare and you can see your lab reports. But we don't put your lab reports on there until we talk to you first. And that's because when you see a high red blood count or you see a high white count and you start freaking out you're dying, we've already talked to you and told you you're not, so then you have your report and it's access to you. So I think it's important that before we access and give these documents that are coming to you, that somebody needs to be at the podium and explain it to everybody before it goes out to the public. Because I think that explanation is important. Now, granted, there's going to be plenty of people out there that aren't going to come to a board meeting or look at the video, and they're going to see the document. But I think it's important to establish before it's released so that people understand it before you look at it and think you're dying. So when it goes up on the screen, like, for example, when we're doing any of the presentations, you don't write everything up there, you're just talking about it. So I think that I would like some thought to be put into that process before we release everything, all the supporting documents, that I believe somebody should be illustrating what is being dictated out there so they understand what they're seeing. And finally, when we talked about everything that you're doing here, so we're going to have to obviously prioritize because, when we talk about some of these things that we want to do, we're going to have to probably add staff, we're probably going to have to add money, and I'd like, we want some more, AP, pre-help, or maybe we want some other time spent on some of that. So I believe that just working on our webpage a little bit will probably bring a lot of the community and feel that they're more included. For example, even with a parent who has a kid in a class and is looking for something and looking for the curriculum or looking for the agendas. If you go at Kings Park, I say that one just because I go onto that website to gain material for some of the classes that I don't have material for to help my daughter, or really to help me help her because I have to go back to school. That's somewhere where we can really take a leap and bound. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional comments?
Okay. Can I just ask a question about the social media? Did we start a high school guidance Facebook page or
Yes.
Twitter account or something like that last year?
It was a Facebook page.
What was the feedback?
I will follow up with Mr. Holtzman just to get a more accurate response to that, which I can bring to you next week, actually, rather than try, I do know that it was positively received. It is a one-way Facebook page, only posts out, no posting back.
I think that's great.
And it was our first foray to experiment with how we might go forward with utilizing social media.
Mr. Holtzman also had a Twitter.
Yes.
You did,
He did.
personally?
No, it was like the
It was
school.
both,
High school
okay.
Twitter.
It was the high school Twitter account.
I'm just curious, when you say it's a one-way post, and I'm not sure anyone here knows the answer to that, but when you share that to another page, can then you start the comment process? That it can then be...
I don't know that for sure.
Does anyone know that?
I
It's a good
thought
question, because if we
I thought it
post
was
something, and we
totally
don't allow
private.
comments, and then we share it to another site,
Yeah.
and then that whole
Starts a
great question.
poison starts.
I wonder if the settings could be adjusted. I mean,
No sharing, or...
yeah, and syntax could probably. I know they monitor and run these types of pages for other districts, so maybe we could look into that. Because I agree with you on that. I mean, just start that whole thing would not be good.
And I know that the website is something that is on the priority list, it seems. but I think that we have, updating can be done, but we also have embedded, like deep in the website, some items like videos for when seniors came and spoke with history class, and we have some, really nice stuff that we could maybe bring closer to the forefront if we could coordinate to have that come closer to the forefront at the same time that we're requesting people in the community to opt in, or, we might get more hits on our website, and if before we get more hits or direct people to it, we spruce it up, and maybe they can see themselves on it, and maybe the updates are more quickly updated, and as far as like what's happening during the week or highlights, that would be excellent.
It sounds like a lot of the website issues that people comment on, is that more of a creativity component of it? Is it syntax that's actually developing, as they present?
so.
Yeah, there are certainly some options for how the website is laid out, so we'll take a look at some of those options as we meet with syntax to improve for that. There are certainly costs associated with enhancements. Some there won't be, but some there will be. There's a service agreement with the level of service,
Right.
if you will, a premium package, platinum package, something like that. So we'll take a look at those options. I look forward to meeting with them and sharing with the board what those options are, and maybe working collaboratively on some of those improvements to the webpage with some feedback from other stakeholders to see what would make sense and make it more accessible and maybe more inviting, if you will.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. If any residents have any questions for the board, you can certainly email the board at any time. One of us will get back to you. I'm looking forward to a great year. I think there's a lot of stuff going on. I appreciate the hard work of everybody here and the administration, and I think it's going to be a great year. So thank you very much for coming.
Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Aaron, Mike Iannucci, all in favor? Okay.
No, is that?
No, exactly.
Can we just